Hi
Okay.
Patrick, welcome to the Maestro Online.
Very, very, very pleased to be with you today, Robin, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Patrick. Now, Patrick, you've had an amazing career as a composer. So where did it begin? Did you have a musical background, a musical family? How did it start off?
Well, my father played the violin, but he was a pharmacist by profession, but he loved music. And, you know, uh, I think he would have preferred to have been a musician, but I suppose in Ireland in those days, there weren't a lot of opportunities, and he had a large family to support. So, pharmacy, that was his income, but his passion was music. And I had a lot of relations who were classical musicians as well. Uh, One of my relations, Geraldine O'Grady, was Ireland's best known violin soloist, and I had a lot of cousins in the symphony orchestra in Dublin.
Oh, so she was violin classical as opposed to fiddle.
Yes, yes. Well, in our house, we had both. We had both traditional music and classical music. Very, very fortunate to have been exposed to both, which was unusual in those days. Now it's quite common. But
Yeah.
at one time, classical people would have frowned upon folk music, and not anymore. But my father was very interested in both. Now, he didn't really have a background in traditional music, but he became very, very interested in it later on.
So at what point did you catch the bug? What started you on your musical journey?
Uh, I always loved music. Uh, when I was born in a very small town called Claremorris in County Mayo, and then when I was about six, we moved to maybe six or seven. We moved to a town called Shannon, where the airport is, and that was a new town, and it was very cosmopolitan. And my first piano teacher her name was Mrs. Vermeer, and she was from Holland, and so I just loved it immediately. And my father made sure that we all did our practice. He was very diligent,
Yeah.
and came home and would listen to us playing our pieces in the evening. And but I just loved it. I was fascinated by music.
So at what point from there? So you start your piano lessons. At what point do you realise that music's going to be your destiny? Because when you left school, you did a maths degree, I believe.
That's right. I did maths in college. My father felt I should do something sensible, because I had so many cousins who were poor musicians, I suppose, and he thought I should, do something more sensible. So I did maths in college, but while I was studying in college, I probably spent more time at music than I did. I probably spent more time at music than I did at my maths. But I enjoyed the maths as well, and I'm glad I did it. But when I was in secondary school, I had a rock band with my brother, a progressive rock band, and we also played trad music as well. So music was a huge part of our lives. And after I finished university, I worked as a statistician for 4 years. But while I was working as a statistician, I was also pursuing my musical career, and I actually made my first album, which was an album called Crit. Crit is one of the Irish names for harp. And on this album, I did a lot of the Irish bardic music, but arranged for a baroque ensemble, which was
Mm.
only six musicians, and with myself on the Irish harp as a soloist. And that album did very well, and I just took it from there and kept going forward, and
So
just kind of built on my success, and eventually ended up in West Hollywood. Yeah.
so there's definitely one thing that you could be claimed to be very famous for, and that's the choral piece that was used in the Hannibal movie. But that just didn't happen. What happened up until that moment? How did you build your career? How did you build your success?
Oh well, after the harp album, I wrote a cantata, and this cantata was in the Irish language. The title of the cantata is "The Children of Lir," and it's a very famous folk tale in Ireland. And the text was from the 17th century. That was the earliest text, and it actually was the first cantata in the Irish language, and that was a massive success in Ireland. In actual fact, the album was released on U2's label in Ireland, and I mean, it sold phenomenally well, and so that kind of brought me then into the American market. And I had visited Los Angeles a couple of times because I had a publishing deal here and a record deal here as well. And uh, after visiting Los Angeles, I thought it might be a good idea to move here. So I did move here, and I had an agent, and he introduced me to Hans Zimmer. So I spent a year in Hans Zimmer's studio when I got here at first. And I learned an awful lot there. I learned how to program. Before then, I didn't know how to program, which is very essential for film music. You know, learning how to do mock-ups, orchestral mock-ups and things like that. I knew nothing
Yes.
about that. But in that year, I learned how to do that. And it just so happened there was a movie called Hannibal. And in the movie, Hannibal Lecter goes to an opera in Florence. And Hans knew that I specialized in choral music, so he asked me to write the aria. And so I grabbed the opportunity with both hands, and the piece kind of became phenomenally successful. Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. So
And
tell,
now, I mean,
yeah, go on.
now just to kind of continue. Now, um, this aria was based on a text by Dante, the Italian poet Dante, and I now have written an entire opera on Dante, which will include that aria. And this opera will premiere in Theater Hof in Bavaria, Germany, on the 15th of June next year. Well, in other words, in 6 months' time. Sorry about
Yes.
the plug, but you know I have to sell
No,
tickets.
that's brilliant plug. Brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So tell me about how you then came to get the Knight of the Order, the Star of Italy.
Well, in in 2015, I spent a full year in Ireland because it was the anniversary of 1916 rebellion, which resulted in Irish independence. So there was a lot of events and celebrations, and there was a documentary made, which was funded by Notre Dame University, which is a university, I think, in Chicago, and they funded it. And Liam Neeson did the narration, and I was asked to do the music. So uh, I was spent a year in Ireland. While I was there, I met the Italian ambassador to Ireland, Giovanni Adorni Braccesi, a very, very nice man. And I told him about Dante. And he came to, I had a studio set up in Dublin for the project I was doing in Ireland. And he came to my studio to listen to some of the mock-ups I had done on Dante, and he loved it. And he's now helping me, promote this opera. And he recommended to the Italian president that I be given this acknowledgement because of my contribution to Italian culture. So they made me a Cavaliere, which
It's
is a kind of a
fantastic.
knighthood, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely wonderful. So, what now is an average day for Patrick Cassidy? What does your day involve? What is your life? So you do a lot of film scoring.
Yes, I do. And uh, I work every day, um, regardless of whether I'm on a movie project or not, because I would say most of my work these days are classical pieces rather than doing film scores. So a few years back, I, I, um, I wrote a setting of the Latin Mass, which I recorded with the London Symphony Orchestra and London Voices. And that's been performed here. I also did an organ version of it, which was performed here in Los Angeles at the First Congregational Church, which is the largest and oldest Protestant church in LA. And that was a big, big event. So I tried to do as much classical music as I can because that's my first love. But film music is very important too. So I divide my time between the two. But especially in film music, it's very important to be current, with
Yes.
technology. So I work every day. It's really important.
So do you have a routine? I imagine that constantly composing needs some kind of space, some kind of quiet, some kind of routine, so that you can let ideas come naturally out and you can build upon them and work with them.
I have a studio in my house here in West Hollywood, and I spend most of my day in my studio, and um, I don't work all the time. I like to do other things. I like to read. Like to read books as well,
Mm.
and but I do work every day, and I will. even on a bad day, I will always get a few hours done for sure. And it's on a movie as well. On a movie, you only have 12 weeks, so I'm always writing themes, and then if I'm on a movie, I can pluck the theme out of my bank rather than trying to find something
so
new.
You've
out
got
of
like an
thin air.
artist sketchbook.
I do, yes. I call it my bank.
Yes.
And
Okay.
so and I go to that when I'm in difficulty, when I'm not inspired, I suppose, or when I'm under pressure and I need a piece. So I work every day, and also a lot of time I spend time learning how to use new software. You know, there's always new software, percussion software, orchestral software coming out.
Yes.
Very, very important to keep on top of that.
Yeah. So my final question for you, what do you think is the most amazing musical moment in your career thus far?
I suppose I've had two, really, up until now. I think Vita Cormeum, was a big thing for me for sure.
Yes.
Also, during the commemorations in Ireland in 2016, I wrote a song called Misha Era, which it's a poem. The poem means I am Ireland. It's a Gaelic poem, but that was a huge, huge success in Ireland. And, my home turf is still very important to me. So that was a very, very, very big thing. But I'm really hoping that the premiere of Dante will be, the crowning achievement when that does happen next year.
Yes.
And I'm very excited about that. I put a lot of work into this opera.
And if you had one piece of advice, one nugget, one Patrick Cassidy moment of wisdom for others, what would that be?
That's difficult. I have never really thought about that. Well, one piece of advice I would like to give is that it really is, it's a cliche, but it really is 95% perspiration and maybe 5% inspiration. It's all about hard work. And if you want to write a good piece of music, by all means go outside and smell the flowers and dream. But it's really about applying yourself and studying music and working hard and, putting in the hours. As I said, it's mainly perspiration rather than inspiration. That's been my experience anyway, I think.
Patrick Cassidy, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.